I get those goosebumps, baby. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You lose your mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC. This is the Loaded Breakfast. I haven't done one of these for a while, boys.
No, we haven't.
No, done a Loaded Breakfast, but there's reason to do so, and we've got lots to talk about. Some positive, some not, but at least there's some positive to talk about. So we'll run through with that. But boys, how are you feeling on this Sunday morning? I've got my water here. I've got my berries here, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, ready to just chomp away as we're chatting football. How are you, Daz? How's things?
I've got my water as well, but I haven't got my berries yet. I'll have to get my berries after this one. But yeah, not too bad. Interesting developments yesterday. I know we will talk a bit about it probably as well. The Seller Cup, which you were at, Pete. The match as well. But yeah, on the transfer fronts, and of course leaned into the night before as well. And yes, the quotes, since we have a lot to talk about. There always is. But this is actually a show about the signing of Malik Thiaw, or almost signing Malik Thiaw. So let's focus there as well. So, but Chris, how are you on this fine morning?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, not quite you boys. Having your berries and thinking about your berries. I've got my coffee as always. Got a nice little cold drink there as well, and of course my vape. So I am set. I am set. And yeah, for the rest of the day, it's going to be an interesting day. I'm going to be doing a bit of decorating, but then I'm going to be stopping about 3 o'clock because I want to watch the Community Shield game. And it will be interesting to see a few players. Yeah. I mean, I'll be doing my Eagle impressions in the living room. That's for sure. But yeah, no, it should be a good day, bro. It should be a good day. But I'm good on the whole. Thank you very much. But Pete, how are you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, all good. Tired, long day, always long days. When traveling up to Newcastle, just because the journey up there, obviously, the game, and then you're straight back. So I end up spending more time on the road than I actually do in Newcastle watching the game. But it's all worth it. Good day. Got to take my daughter again up to watch Newcastle. She was buzzing for it and really enjoyed it, regardless of the result. She really enjoyed it. But it's quite a nice kind of way to segue in. And I can see Nobby Clark's in the chat. Good morning, Nobby. Just telling the boys before we went live that I managed to bump into you. Great to meet you and your little boy. Hope you had a great day as well. It wasn't the result that we wanted, Nobby, and your boy predicted, but we had a good day. It was nice to be back. One thing I said to anyone that I spoke to: football is absolutely back, and that's the thing. After this type of summer that we've had, it's really good to be back, looking and watching football again properly. That was one of the key things. I just want to give a shout out to the guy next to me. His name is gone out of my head, but really, really appreciate it. Daz, yeah, Daz. I probably was. Really, really nice guy. Chatting away about football. Just really, really nice guy. He got he got some food for his kids. One of his kids didn't want some of the food that he got, so he offered it to Ava, and just like it was just really, really kind, really, really nice guy. Chatting away from him, and then all of a sudden he realised that we're on Loaded Mag NUFC.
Oh, did he?
Now he realizes, and actually he just confirmed a request on Instagram literally just before he started talking to me from Loaded Mag. It was just really strange how it all kind of came about, but really nice guy, top guy.
Oh, cool.
He'll be watching this at some point, so nice to meet you. But boys, I want to run through really quickly before we get into the big talk on all things Newcastle United. As you mentioned, Chris, there's a couple of friendlies over the course. I think as you mentioned it as well. We had the 2-2 draw against Espanyol on the Friday. Aaron Ramsdale made his debut, big save, kept Newcastle in the game at that point. And then yesterday, and I've took a picture from my sort of vantage point of where me and my daughter were watching the game. But unfortunately, we didn't manage to secure the Seller Cup again for a third consecutive year. We lost 2-0 to a strong Atletico Madrid, should I say, but a very, very strong side for that game. Boys, just want to get your thoughts and opinions on those two games. If you want to focus more on Atletico Madrid, feel free to do it. But my question to you boys is, in your opinion, were those two games beneficial at all for Newcastle United?
They're always beneficial from a fitness point of view, and as we get closer to the season starting, it kind of ramps up, and their performances did improve on the games in Asia. Now the heat and everything like that was also going to be a factor in Asia. I didn't get to see the Espanyol game, but I saw the Atletico Madrid game. I saw the highlights of the Espanyol game. And it's also difficult because you don't get to see the full team that we're going to start with on against Villa, because it kind of mix and match just to get with the two games on consecutive days. Espanyol game, it was great to see Ramsdale in goal. Even though I just the highlights that I saw that one, I think he's going to do well for us. I'm excited to see what he can bring. I didn't think I'd be as excited back when we were talking about goalies a long time ago, but that's going to be very interesting. Good. The pressing on that goal was it Murphy that scored it? I can't remember now. But the pressing to get that one back was good as well. At the end of the game yesterday, we were doing well, and then Atletico brought on all a whole new team at one point as well, and just ramped it up. With Lascelles and Alex Murphy at our backline as well, and we kind of got caught on the hop with Harrison Ashby going down, and then we didn't track back. It kind of fell apart from there, but it doesn't matter. It'd be nice to win the Seller Cup again, because that's our trophy, but it'll come back. It doesn't really matter. We have an awful lot of stuff going on in the background as well, so it's just we're looking like we're getting to where we need to be. Whether we'll be there, because we've two very difficult first games. We'll get on to that, I'm sure, during the week. But it was a good run out. We got to hear a lot of what Eddie's thoughts as well, and then the pressers, which we'll get into, as well as it could be, I think, as coming out of that. So apart from the losses and no injuries, especially because the Gordon one was a worry at the end yesterday, but no major injuries.
Absolutely. We might as well just throw that in really quickly before I come to you, Chris.
Yeah.
Is that there were some concerns Gordon went down. I think I messaged to you, and a few people said at the time that it looked like the way he went down, they thought it was a hamstring injury. And everyone around us were kind of hands on head, thinking, for God's sake, why our only striker, potentially hamstring injury, you're looking at weeks and maybe even months at that point. So there was panic around where we were. But thankfully, Anthony Gordon has put on his Instagram, just twisted my ankle, no problem, glad to be back home. So yeah, business time next, which gives us the impression that he's fine and he'll be ready for Aston Villa. So positive news on that one. But Chris, your thoughts on Espanyol, talking about Ramsdale, anybody else that kind of stood out, and particularly Atletico Madrid, the game, because I would probably say that we played the stronger team in the Atletico Madrid game. So it's probably more of a game to keep an eye on in terms of players and performances. But how did you make on that one, mate?
Well, I'm the opposite of Daz. So I saw the Espanyol game, but I didn't see the Atletico Madrid game. So I was out yesterday. So it would be nice to come to you, Pete, to hear your thoughts on it, because I know obviously you were there. You and Ava were there. So no. But in general terms, to answer your initial question, how helpful is it having two games so close together the week before the season? And I totally agree with that. From a fitness point of view, I think it's ideal. Because you're getting as many minutes as you can into the players' legs. From a tactical point of view, I don't really think it's helpful at all. Because, you know, as people have pointed out, we've yet to see our best 11 play, but we will next weekend. So that is a little bit of a concern for me. Although, you know, even if we didn't have this format, Eddie Howe isn't somebody who would play his strongest 11 and basically say to the club who they're about to play in a week, oh, by the way, this is the team I'm going to play. I think we can all piece it together ourselves, and we know roughly what team is going to get played. We could probably name it now, but yeah, in terms of how helpful it is, I think there's probably a better way of doing it. But in terms of the whole squad, I think it's good. It allows Eddie Howe to see all the players, and also you're getting your fitness in, as we discussed at the start. So I haven't really got a problem with it, to be honest, as long as the players have got enough training in them, and as long as they're as fit as they can be before the start of the season. I don't have a big thing about it. In terms of my general thoughts, and I can only really base this on the Espanyol game and what I've seen this pre-season. I've got two big takeaways for me, and the first one is that I feel that Anthony Gordon's going to have a really big season. I've just been really impressed by the way that he seems to have applied himself. And do you know what? I was thinking yesterday, when he posted that picture you had up then, Pete, on his Instagram saying that he's all right and stuff. Yeah. I just thought to myself, I wonder, and I can't remember if we discussed this last show or it was after it might have been after the show, to be fair, we were discussing it. But I just feel like with Alexander Isak kind of almost stepping off the mantle of being the guy, it now means that Anthony Gordon maybe sees this as, right, I've got to step up now. It's my responsibility to step up. I've got to be the guy. And I think that can only be to the benefit of himself and also Newcastle United, because, we've seen previously, a bit of a sulky Anthony Gordon, or, not quite right within himself, Anthony Gordon. But if you get one who's bang on form, bang up for it, head right, committed, determined, he's probably got an eye on the World Cup, let's be honest. Exactly. I think that will be to the benefit of us. I really, really do. I think it'll be great. And if it means that we get a full season out of him and we get loads of goals and assists, it's only going to help us on the pitch, isn't it? And then the second takeaway, and I think I said this to you boys, didn't I? I messaged you boys when I was watching the Espanyol game. Like, the stark difference when Ramsdale was in goal as opposed to Pope, even just for the time that we've seen him in goal, like, in terms of how comfortable he is on the ball, how comfortable the team were in giving him the ball, very quick on the counter. I don't mean him running, but in terms of like distribution, getting the ball out, moving the players up the pitch. I think sooner rather than later we need to get Adam Ramsdale in between the sticks. I really, really do, yeah. And I think it will be to the benefit. Espanyol's first goal was absolutely ridiculous. I think I was speaking to you at the time, Pete. It was a ridiculous strike, so we had no chance with that. But he made a very good save late on as well, and obviously the penalty save, of course. So yeah, I'm interested to see Adam Ramsdale in between the sticks, and I'm very interested to see how Anthony Gordon performs, because I think he's gonna step up this season, and I think he's gonna have a big season for us. And it's great that he's not injured. So they were my overall thoughts, really. But Pete, what about you? And obviously you were there yesterday, so you can probably shed a bit more light.
Yeah, it was. Look, you can see it was a really strong team, Atletico Madrid. I was impressed. And look, when you look at overall the preseason friendly, a couple of the lads in the 12th man were trying to put something out there to on the chat this morning to try and sort of take the mick because we haven't won a game in preseason, which it doesn't look good, regardless of which way you take it. It doesn't look good if you don't win a game. But we've scored a few goals. But if you look at the level of competition that we've come up against with the likes of Arsenal, Tottenham, Atletico Madrid, we've had some really tough preseason games. And I think the games where you'd have expected us to win, the what was it, the Singapore 11 or North Korea, South Korea 11. I can't remember the name of the team, and that Espanyol. You'd probably say those two games where you would have thought we'd have won the game. We've probably played the weakest teams in those two games. So that's in players that probably going to have no chance of getting into the team. So I don't hold on to preseason too much. I think fitness-wise, it's been good for us. I think test-wise yesterday was really good for us, albeit we didn't win and their quality shone through. I think what that's going to do is give the players a kick up the backside because that's the type of quality you're going to be coming up against in the Champions League. And these boys, in my opinion, are not ready for the Champions League, but it means that they've got time now to get ready because they know what they're going to be coming up against. So I thought it was a good test from that point of view. I have to say, for the first half, we could have been 3 or 4-0 up. Genuinely. I think Atletico Madrid created a couple of opportunities, 2 or 3 openings, but we created 5 or 6. And really, on another day, Joe Linton could have been walking off with a match ball at halftime. He had that many chances in front of goal, which I'm pleased to see. He was arriving in the box, he was getting in there, but equally the delivery was good. I was massively impressed with Anthony Elanga. Every time he got the ball, he's lightning quick. He's like, and I said it to my daughter before the game. I said, new signing Anthony Elanga. Said, just watch how quick he is. And she just couldn't believe how fast he was. Every time he got the ball, bang, he was gone. And their fullback was having nightmares in that first half. And Newcastle very quickly caught on. Work the ball out wide, give it to Trippier, feed it into Elanga one-on-one, go at him. And I think next season, if we have that with a striker on the end of that, I think it could really bear fruit for Newcastle United. We could really benefit from that. I was really impressed with him. I thought he did really, really well. You're right, Chris, around Anthony Gordon. I mean, he's not a striker. He's very, very clear. His movements and various other things are not of what a striker needs. That's not his fault. I think his preseason's been interrupted slightly because he's been having to play a role that he's not comfortable in or he's not playing in. He would have much rather been able to hone his craft on the left-hand side and get to work on his game that way. But the key point is that his head's right. Anthony Gordon's head's right. He is fully focused on Newcastle United. And I think this season, I do believe, we've said it before, I do believe we're going to see the Anthony Gordon that we got a couple of years ago. What we do need to see from him, though, with Alexander Isak going, staying, whatever it is, we need to see goals from Anthony Gordon. I need to see him putting the ball in the back of the net. Creating, yes, but I need him to score goals. We are going to need our wingers, our wide men, to score goals for us this season, in addition to whichever striker's leading the line for us. That's going to be absolutely crucial on us moving up the table. Other notable performances from yesterday, I thought Sven Botman was excellent. Obviously, it was a planned 45 minutes, but I thought he was excellent. And it's no slant on Alex Murphy, but it was obvious when Sven Botman went off that Jamal Lascelles' level dropped, because you could see on the pitch, Sven Botman is barking orders to Jamal Lascelles, telling him where to go, who to pass to, what to do, what position he's in. And he was very much commanding that back line, Sven Botman was. And then when he goes, it's kind of like the relationship between Alex Murphy and Jamal Lascelles. Neither of them don't really know what to do. And it was evident, particularly for the second goal, for Griezmann's goal, is that they were a little bit all over the place. I know we got caught cold, but they're a little bit all over the place for that one. So his presence was really key, and it was really good to see him back as well. So yeah, they were kind of the ones that stood out for me. But there was some really good attacking play, lots to be positive about. We just now need to turn up next weekend, because next weekend Aston Villa, who haven't had the best of pre-seasons themselves, that haven't had the best of summers themselves, we really could take advantage there if we're on it. So we need to start well. Forget the pre-season now; it's done with. It's what we do on Saturday, and that was what I was telling my daughter and a couple of other people out off the pitch. But look, it is what it is. It's done now, and we move forward into the new season. And we move forward into the new season. And I wasn't going to come to this, but I'll come to this now, because it's effectively why we're here this morning. Because as we were watching the game, news was breaking around this man. Our new centre-back, it seems, Malik Thiaw, is on his way to Newcastle United. Now, a little run-through very, very quickly of how it sort of came about. So we have been interested in the last week and a half. It has started to ramp up again with Malik Thiaw. And Alessandro Jacoboni had mentioned previously that the player had given his full approval to the transfer of AC Milan to Newcastle. Gianluca Di Marzio mentioned today was the decisive date. That was Saturday morning that he put that out. And then whilst we were on live, we got the here we go. Fabrizio Romano, regardless of what Newcastle fans think of him, he has been on this deal since it's actually started to ramp up. He has been seeing us through this one, and he gave us the here we go agreement in place for £40 million, should I say, package with add-ons included. That's all in €40 million. And the deal at its final stages. David Ornstein then also reports that we were very close at that point. Keith Downey is then straight on it. He was at the game, but he was on the button as always. So it works out to 35 million all in, lads. He's not 28, he's 24. He did correct himself on that, and he expects him to do his medical in the next 48 hours. So yeah, 30 million plus 4.3 in add-ons. Whether they're achievable add-ons or not, we don't know. But Fabrizio Romano then gave us the rundown here of what's likely to happen before we see Malik Thiaw officially wearing black and white. So as Daz and Sean Casey reminded me whilst I was watching the game, but I didn't see this. Here's
the apology. Okay, is it going to be in Irish? The apology.
No, it's not an apology, because England, UK, same thing. But I'm joking. Yeah, I thought they were playing in Leeds, but they weren't. They were playing in Dublin for some reason. I've got no idea why. So he's going to travel with AC Milan down to London, because I think AC Milan as well play Chelsea today. So they've got a game. But instead of staying for the match, he's going to travel back to Milan Sunday morning, I imagine, to clear out his locker, collect his things, travel up to the northeast Sunday night. So we should hear some news late evening around him arriving in Newcastle, and then a medical contract signing looking like it's going to be Monday. That was the plan. Could well change. I'm sure we'll keep an eye on it on all things Loaded Mag NUFC. But boys, very, very happy with this one. Alex Cook mentioned something quite interesting here. Don't know if you boys saw this. He mentioned it's been a tricky summer for us so far, Newcastle United, but he was told that Malik Thiaw turned down some big clubs to join Newcastle United. It seemed like from the very beginning it was Newcastle United that he wanted. So, boys, Malik Thiaw, centre-back added to the ranks. Talk to me. Happy? How you feeling? What's this mean for Newcastle United, Dad?
Yes, happy. I think he's going to be a good player for us. I think Eddie can even develop him even further. He looks good in the clips I've seen of him. And look, we did kind of an in-depth on him a year ago. He probably has some things that he needs to work on as well. But I don't know if he's. I don't think he's passing this up there on Char's level. But he's 24. He's not 34. Going on 34 at Char. I think it's great that this kind of shuts down all the centre back talk now. That's it. Look, it would my preference would have been Scalvini, but that was a no-go, and we're getting into crazy figures to try and bring him to Newcastle. And no, I think this will solidify us. We have backup for it now for Shar, because we don't really want to be relying on Lascelles as good cover, but just that, and good behind the scenes. That also then kind of would because it's 35 million or 40 million euro all in, and that's the figures you put up there. Keith has the accurate ones, but it does free up cash for other positions, and I think you were pointed back to this, Chris, back when you were kind of touting going back in for Malick again. That may free up then for midfielder. We know we have to bring in 2 strikers, at least definitely 1, but probably 2. But yeah, it leaves space for a midfielder, you would think, as well. So looking forward to see what he can do. It'll take him a while to adjust to the Premier League as well. He's had a good pre-season, and hence they were trying to eke that bit more out of him. And I know the question I had myself, and I saw other people asking as well, when there was a deal with Como for 25 million euro, I think it was, then why aren't we getting the same deal? But he did step it up a bit. Again, it's going to the Premier League. It's that, and they were considering holding on to him. So we had to kind of push it out a bit more to get it done. Also, from one of our discussions with the journalists this time last year, Alessandro, but yeah, he was very good friends with Sandro Tonali, so that's a good benefit as well. Another deal with Milan. Let's make sure everything's kosher with this one. Ask him a few questions. Maybe ask him, who's he backing on winning the league? Just see what he says. Just ask him that question. But yeah, no, looking forward to see what he can do, and our backline sorted. On to the other positions after that. So yeah, thumbs up from me.
Chris, the fee of 40 million euros to 30 million plus 4, is that sort of a good deal for Newcastle United? Are you happy with that one? I know there was talk of him going to another team in Serie A for a little bit less than that. But what do you make of this deal overall, and Malick Thiaw on his way to Newcastle United?
I'm really pleased with the deal. I am. I am frustrated, as you just mentioned there, Pete, that Como had a deal agreed. I think it was 25 million euros, something like that. So that is frustrating. But then on the other hand, let's be honest, boys, it's all hindsight, isn't it? And who's to say that, AC Milan would have accepted our bid of 25 million euros? It probably wouldn't have been accepted because, I think Daz mentioned it just then. There is a bit of a premium when they come to the Premier League, and obviously they know, well, I think it's the worst kept secret that Newcastle could come into some money this transfer window, who knows? So I think they would have tried to raise that price anyway. Ultimately, for me, and as well, boys, I didn't even mention that, and let's be honest, did AC Milan accept the 25 million euro offer from Como because, one, he's going to stay in Serie A in Italy, and 2, we don't know. There could have been like a buyback clause inserted for like 35 million. Do you know what I mean? So we just don't know. So it might not have been that an attractive deal as what we believe. And, the good noises are the fact that Maximo Allegri was keen to keep Malik around the squad. I'm not sure if I believe that or not, I'm not saying he didn't have a good pre-season, but it's always a good way to raise the price, isn't it? By going, I really don't want to lose him. Really pleased with him. And in fairness, they're tactics that we would use if we had a player that, we didn't need to sell, but we were trying to raise the price. So I get it. Looking at it from overall, he's 24 years old. He's 6'3". He's quick. He's a right centre back, right footed. He's Champions League experienced. He's played at the very top level with AC Milan. I think it's a good price, boys. I really, really do. Because if you were trying to get similar, say in the Premier League, so let's assume if we marry it across, you'd be talking about what, a top 5 Premier League centre back. Who's 24 years old, who's played in the Champions League, who competes at the very top all the time. You're not getting them for £30 million. You're just not. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be 50 million, isn't it? So if you look at it like that, I think we've got ourselves a decent deal. I think he's going to be a really good player for us. I hope that Eddie Howe, can kind of get the best out of him. The nice thing is, this deal hasn't been done on a whim, boys. This is someone who we've been watching for a long time, as we well know, because we've spoken about him so many times. So I think it's a coup. I think it's really, really good that we're bringing him in. And more importantly, which I completely forgot, and when Daz said it at the start of the show, I was a bit like, what's he talking about? And then I was like, no, he's right. Because we said, didn't we, that the goalkeeping Carja was sources. And then Daz was like, the defence is sources. Now we've just got to worry about the midfield and attack. And I was like, yeah, the defence is sorted now, isn't it? Because it was just that right centre-back that we needed. So, again, it's
right on the show, Chris.
What, sorry?
Backline complete.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And now we can focus on the central midfield and obviously the two positions up front. And then all of a sudden, we'll look back on the 1st of September and go, do you know what? Transfer window wasn't that bad. And hopefully that's the case. Hopefully that's what we do, because I do believe if we bring in at least one central midfielder and two strikers, I think we've had a good window. I think the window looks all right, because all of a sudden you move Anthony Gordon back out to the left. You look on the right and you've got Alanga and Murphy. You've got 2, possibly 3 striker options up there. And then you've got your 3 main central midfielders as it stands. Could be, the extra person could also be a main one. Your 3 central midfielders as it stands: Louis Miley, Joe Willock to return soon, and then a new central midfielder. And all of a sudden you're going, okay, squad looks pretty decent. And then we can add Park to that as well, can't we? Sung Park, who's come a little bit out of nowhere. Out of interest, what are your boys' thoughts on Park? Just very quickly, do you think he's going to be included? Well, Eddie Howe has alluded to the fact he's going to be training with the first team squad. Is he going to be another Trevor Sanusi who bursts on the scene and then all of a sudden he just goes back down the ranks a little bit? Or do you see him being involved in the first team squad this year?
I see him ahead of Trevor Sanusi. I genuinely do, because from what I've seen from Sung-Soo Park in the few cameos that he's had, and obviously he started against Espanyol. I thought he did really well, by the way. He's done more than Trevor Sanusi. He's done more than him in his opportunities than Trevor Sanusi has in his opportunities. There's still lots of work there. And that's not to say Trevor Sanusi doesn't make it, but he's got a lot of work to do. He's very slight, very weak on the ball. He's got trickery, but in sort of top level football, at the top end first team, he hasn't quite shown it. Well, Sung-Soo Park has. He's shown that he can mix it. What I love about him is his tenacity. He gets stuck in. He puts his body about. It's not just his ability on the board. He's willing to graft and work hard as well. He's willing to put in a shift. He's willing to mix it with players. I love that about him, because that's what Newcastle United is. It's high intensity, high work rate, but it's high tenacity as well. Putting yourself about, being aggressive. We saw that again for Newcastle yesterday. We overhauled Atletico Madrid in that first half because physically we dominated them. Joe Linton was dominating them. Sven Botman was dominating them. We had players in the middle of the park. Sandro Tonali was doing the same. Physically, we have to be able to dominate teams. That's part of our DNA. And although he's not the big strapping guy, Sung-Soo Park has definitely shown that he is capable of mixing it. Now, look, is he going to start games for Newcastle United? Absolutely not. But what I will say is that I think Eddie Howe has been pleasantly surprised by Sung-Soo Park. I don't think that when they signed him, they would have expected him to be where he is right now. I actually don't believe he would have been part of pre-season had he not shown his ability in the games over in South Korea. I think he's actually won himself into a position where he's been added into these next few games, and he's been added into the Seller Cup, because I think they probably would have kind of got him on the 21s or told him to take a back seat, but he has continued to impress, and I think that's why he's now kind of been integrated into the first team. I'm not saying we're going to see him every week all the time. We're not. We may see him if he stays around in the Carabao Cup. He may well go on loan. We don't know, but he's definitely put himself in that window to be considered. And fair play to him. That's what we want players to do.
For me, I've only seen the cameos in the early preseason games in Asia because I couldn't see that Espanyol game. I tried to. Because I was looking forward to seeing what he could do. But it's too difficult to know what would happen. I think the transfer window as well is going to have a bearing on that. Who we bring in, and don't they always? They were saying it actually in the game yesterday that or one of the games I was watching, and that it'll come to the League Cup game, and after that, then usually the loans happen, kind of decisions are made at who's going where and who's sticking around. So. Yeah, it's another thing to see, and of course you can throw Sula into that mix as well. You can throw Alex Murphy and a few more then as well that would look to go out and on.
Just my thoughts on Malik Thiaw as a signing. I'm really pleased that we've got this deal done for a couple of reasons. One, in pre-season friendlies this summer, it's been really clear that the backline needs pace. We've been caught too many times on pre-season with pace over the top, whether it's been Byrne, whether it's been Shaw, whether it's been Trippier. We really do lack a level of pace at the back, and it's really clear that that's something that we need to add to this line. When you boys said backline complete, yes, in terms of the centre backs, for me, I still think we need cover for Lewis Hall. I can't have in my mind Matt Targett going into this season as left back cover. If anything happens to Hall again, we're then back to Tino left, Trippier right, and I think Tino needs to be starting games on the right hand side. He has to be, because if he's going to be the long term guy, he needs to be starting games there. Yeah. It's just something it's something that's still kind of going in my mind that we still have work to do. But in terms of starters, absolutely, we are kind of done there in terms of bringing him in. Malik Thiaw is a player that is going to get better. He's a German international. Yes, his season last year wasn't great, but neither was AC Milan. AC Milan altogether as a team were not good. He will get better. He's lightning quick. He's good in the air. His ground jewels are good. And as well as that, he's really good at progressing the ball with his feet. Some of the stats out there in terms of his progressive passing, his passing rate, his completion rates are all very good. And underrated, by the way. And I think he'll be a really good addition. But above all of that, I would say this is the exact type of signing that we needed to do. When we've been sitting in ballparks of 70 million for Mark Gay last summer, Mark Gay now being valued again with a year left of his contract at 50 million. Scalvini at 50 million, although he's a quality player, but we would have ended up paying, a huge amount for the player over his value to be able to get him out the door from Atalanta. And so for me, going back to the board and going, right, can we get someone from Europe cheaper with better value that's on a similar level to some of these players? And Malik Thiaw is that guy. I think Malik Thiaw's not too far away from a Mark Gay level. I think he's maybe a bit further away from Scalvini, but can he get there? Absolutely. And we always back Eddie Howe to be able to get the best out of players and move players on. My key now is how quickly does he come into this first team? Because for me, we need to start quick. We need to start fast. We need to start well this season. I would be integrating him into the first team as quickly as we possibly can. He won't play or start against Villa, but after that, I think I'd be integrating into that first team to be starting. But that's just my opinion. Great signing. Really excited to see him come in. And I think Newcastle made the right decision in going for Malik Thiaw in this situation, boys.
Pete, just want to go back on one of the things you said. So you said on the backup for Lewis Hall. So as we know, we have Livramento who can play left and right, but we would eventually like to see him on the right. We also have Targett and Alex Murphy that could play the left. And if you really want to say, well, we don't want to go there, Dan Byrne. But so do you see Newcastle looking at strengthening that position this in the next 20 days? Because we know the 2 strikers and midfielder. Do you see? And I suppose this links back to why we were so adamant that they should have gone in for the likes of Kyle Walker-Peters on a free, who's now at West Ham. So can you see something happening there in that left back position is the question. I can't.
Honestly, no, just because of the need of the other position, striking position, the question marks around Alexander Isak, all of that stuff will be the priority. I think an absolute priority is a centre midfielder. For me, I actually think Newcastle United need to go big on a centre midfielder personally. Lots of talk around Lucas Paqueta. I would love Newcastle United to go in for him. I think he's absolutely ideal for what we need. Just really quickly linking that to yesterday, what we do lack is creativity from the middle of the park. In the forward areas, we absolutely lack someone that can create something through the middle. We're expecting our wingers to do everything, and if the wingers are not at it, we don't create. And it was really obvious in the second half that is that when the wingers were kind of slowing down and fatigue was kicking in, the forward line in that midfield really, really was not strong at all. So there's other priorities is my point. If something materialises and someone comes in from that target, I don't think the goal would have done him any harm. Seeing him score, he did all right in that midfield role, but it puts eyes on that target. There may be some interest, and I think if there's enough interest and there's a bid there, I think Newcastle will then go and bring someone in. But I don't see it as something that will definitely happen. I see that more of a January thing, moving target on in January and then reinvesting in January there. But who knows? Who knows? Newcastle United will be massively active between now.
Have to be.
So anything's possible, mate. Anything's possible.
Just to point out as well, I'm sure I've read somewhere, tell anyone in the chat or you boys tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure Matt Targett's only got a year left on his deal, which would mean that if we wanted to kind of turn any profit for him, or maybe not even turn profit, but get any money back for him, it would be now would be the time, to kind of let him go. I agree with you, Pete. I think long term we do need a replacement at left back. As in, if Lewis Hall isn't playing, we need someone of a higher quality than Matt Targett. But as Daz mentions, I just don't see it this window. I'd love to see it this window, but I'm just not expecting it, is what I'd say. And maybe if we weren't so distracted with the crisis up front, which I'm sure we'll get to, and obviously needing a centre midfielder, maybe that would be more prominent. But who knows? Who knows if the right opportunity comes about or the right player becomes available? Maybe we press the button on that. I don't know, but I think it's something that the hierarchy are aware of, and I think it's someone that we will look to move on, particularly if a decent offer comes in. I think we will let him go.
Definitely. Let's wait and see. Lots of business to be done. Of course, midfielder, striker. We're going to come back to the striker talk in just a second. Or are we? We might as well go there now. Let's talk about Alexander Isak. So there's been 2 press conferences over the course of the last 2 games. Lots of things been said. This was the first press conference. We know what was being talked about. We don't know how long that will be for in terms of Alexander Isak's situation. He's training later than the rest of the squad. We know all this stuff here. Keith Downey then says, asked the question to Eddie Howe, and he says, I want him playing today and training tomorrow. No part of me doesn't want that. Let me be absolutely clear. We would love the player to be with us, but I don't see the current situation changing before Aston Villa. We then got at the same time as that on Friday, Fabrizio Romano in his video. Obviously, I've used that Anfield Sector, but it was in Fabrizio Romano's video. He's said repeatedly and again said last night that Newcastle tried again with a renewed contract, multiple contracts, he's now said, and they have been rejected by Isak. And he's fully focused on moving to Liverpool. Spanner in the works by Luke Edwards. He's finally back off holiday, and boy, did we know it Saturday morning, because he puts his exclusive in that Newcastle United have told Alexander Isak he will not be sold this summer, and a move to Liverpool will be blocked, causing widespread fume, not only with the likes of Fabrizio Romano, who even mentions this particular piece without mentioning Luke Edwards directly. Not the first time that's happened, talking about this situation, but also the Anfield and Liverpool fans have gone up in uproar off the back of this. After the game yesterday, Eddie Howe and Isak, the question was, are you hopeful you can change Alexander Isak's mind? He says, if it was that easy, I'd have done it yesterday. As well as that, Eddie Howe on Isak being told that he was staying. Eddie Howe said, no, that's something that I'm not aware of. I'm not party to all discussions, but I have no knowledge of that at all. Luke Edwards then responds to a tweet from Lee Ryder with regards to the question around Isak. Eddie Howe says he's contracted, he's our player, the club will make a decision on his future. He then quote tweets it, Luke Edwards, and says, and the board have told him he's not for sale. Interestingly, on the back of this, he has said as well, I stand by every word of this article, and we shall see who's right on September the 1st. Isak has been told he's not for sale by the board. He's throwing a strop and wants to force his way out. Why do you think he's not involved? That's where things are. So he's been very forceful with that. And just as we were live, he's then put another piece out and says, his comment, Alexander Isak's behavior has been despicable. The sooner he realizes it, the quicker the healing process will be. So that's kind of a brief version of where we are. I'm going to throw out all different quotes all over the place. People would have seen them. They would know what they're on. That's the kind of flavor we've had with regards to Alexander Isak. We're back here again, boys, talking Alexander Isak. What is going on with this whole situation from your perspective, Daz?
Right, well, just taking the journalists that you've put up the tweets for there. Look at Craig Hope has been on this all summer. Keith, and he's been with the camp in discussions, both on the record, off the record. Keith Downey has been in the mix, even though he wasn't in Asia, but he's involved in all the press conferences. Luke is just coming back into the equation after being, even though he has contacts, well, I'm sure his sources are correct as well. But I'm tending to go up more on what Craig Hope and Keith Downey have been saying, really. And yeah, we will see come the end of it. And both Keith and Craig Hope have been kind of saying this could still go either way, this one. And yeah, I'm mindful of the time, so I'll just watch my language. He's just been a bit of an ass, isn't he? Alexander Isak. Look, poor Eddie. Beep. Poor Eddie having to take on everything and explain everything again. No one else behind the scenes. A similar pattern. Actually, you could even link back to Rafa's time and that Mike Ashley era. The manager having to explain everything. We're back. We need something behind the scenes. People behind the scenes to give their input and not just Eddie Howe, their input on this one. But I don't know. I've lost all hope of Alexander Isak now as well. I would have been like, I was the one a couple of weeks ago saying no, this can't happen. He'll come back. He changed his mind. No, it's gone too far now. He's made his mind up. I don't think there's any way back for him. But at the same time, I do not want us to sell him to Liverpool. I really don't want, and no one does. So I think I saw something as well. If some kind of a loan deal to someone in Europe, could be PSG, could be a loan fee, and then to sell them after that. That I think that because of the timing of this, the teams have made their decisions. They've made they've conducted their signings. They're set for the season. But I think a loan with the loan to buy deal may suit Newcastle. Gets a player that we don't that doesn't want to be here and doesn't want to play for Newcastle, doesn't want to wear a Newcastle jersey again. out and disrupting things behind the scenes for everybody else. And that's why we're not scoring goals as well. There's too much and winning our preseason game. This is all affecting the players. So I don't know. That's the way I'd go on it. And I also believe that in the same way, if we were to go for Watkins, right? If we were to go for Watkins, I don't think we'd make a move until after we played them. I still don't think we're going to go for Watkins, and I still don't think Villa would sell to us. But Liverpool will do the same to us. But I actually think Liverpool will make the second bid. They've been respectful to us all the way along, haven't they? Until they're not, and they put in that derogatory offer. So I believe that they will come back, or there'll be media stories about a second bid right before we go play the days leading up to try and disrupt us again, because to try and ensure that they get the 3 points off us, and that's when it'll all ramp up again. Isak to Liverpool thing. That's the point in time. I think it will, and especially if we're getting closer to potentially bringing in that's the second striker. We haven't talked about that. The Callum Wilson was present. We'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. But that's what I think will happen. And I'm thinking. I don't think he'll be with us come the end of the transfer window at this stage.
Craig Hope has mentioned, Chris, that everything is all in play. That it's still all possibilities are still in play. Do you think they are? Do you think there is a chance that Alexander Isak could put on the shirt for Newcastle United again?
Yeah, I do. And the reason I think it is because, there's so many variables, isn't there? There's so many variables, and for me, I think it's the 2 or 3. But anyway, I'll go through them and then we'll see how many there are. But when they pop into my head, but yeah, Liverpool have got to put down an acceptable amount of money. I keep getting told from various Liverpool fans, we'll pay about 115, maybe rising to 120, or we'll pay 120 rising to 125, and it's like, you'll pay what we want you to pay. You won't pay what you think you want to pay. And, at the end of the day, in order to prize Alexander Isak out of Newcastle United, you're going to have to pay what the owners think he's worth. And 110 million, as I said to the boys, it's not going to touch the sides. It really won't. We know that Alexander Isak's caused a bit of an issue, and we know that Alexander Isak has, very nearly burnt his bridges entirely. He's pretty much nearly there. But there is still hope, and I do still look on the other side of things. From a personal point of view, boys, because of this merry-go-round, because of the way he's made me feel, the way he's made you boys feel, and the way he's made everybody in the chat feel, and all the other fans, I do want him gone. But then, on the other hand, I look and I think, and I've been consistent with this from the very, very start, we cannot sell Alexander Isak if we don't bring a replacement in. Now, some people will say, but he's not an option anyway. He's not playing anyway. Boys, as soon as the 1st of September comes, the landscape changes. It absolutely changes, because Alexander Isak can't go anywhere until the 1st of January. And as a footballer, he cannot continue to act and behave in the way that he is from the 1st of September to the 1st of January. He just can't. And he knows that. This is why he's levelling up. This is why he's probably looking every day he wakes up and he's looking at the calendar and he's thinking, I've got 21 days here to try and secure this move. I've got to do it in the next 21 days. Now, all of his efforts so far maybe haven't come to fruition. It hasn't quite panned out how he'd hoped. I think he'd hoped that he would be in a Liverpool shirt by now, but he's not. Whether that's because Liverpool haven't, put the money down, whether that's because Newcastle have been insistent that he's not for sale and have not given Liverpool any encouragement to bid. From my personal perspective, I want him to go. And do you know what? Even if it meant, and some people have said it in the chat here, even if it meant we went and got Johan Wissa and we brought in a loan, whether that be a loan striker, or even if we signed Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a 1-year deal or something, and just went with Johan Wissa, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, recoup the money for Alexander Isak, and we look again in January, or we look again next summer. Part of me feels like I would take that, and the reason being isn't because don't get me wrong, the drop in quality is quite significant, but I really don't want a bad apple around the squad. And that's the only thing that concerns me. Because let's be honest, boys, as soon as that 1st of September comes, Alexander Isak's looking at the situation and going, right, because this is from his point of view, and he's looking, he's going, I'm gonna have to reintegrate back into this squad. I'm gonna have to say that I want to play for Newcastle United. I'm gonna have to say that I want to be part of this team, because what he cannot do, he cannot afford, with 3 years left on his contract, he cannot afford to go into this season and still maintain the same attitude, or be half-arsed, or not give 100%. Because even the likes of Liverpool and other potential suitors will look at him and just go, arsehole, I don't want him. I'm not paying 120 million. What do Newcastle want? 120 million? Say at this point, if you know this window goes 120, 130, whatever there may be, I'm not paying that for him. And then all of a sudden, Alexander Isak's getting bids, you know, off like a Crystal Palace or a Wolves, or, you know what I mean? The bids from the clubs that he wants are not coming in. And then he's thinking, well, I may as well just stay at Newcastle, because, you know, I'm not taking a step down. I'm not even taking a sideward step. I want to take a step up. But all the clubs who are there potentially to make the step up are all looking at him and going, do we really want him to kind of do that to us? Do we really want to pay all this money for a player who's barely played any football, clearly can't, you know, remain professional and do his job? Do we really want to take that on? What if he does that to us in 12 months' time? If Real Madrid, Barcelona come in for him, is he going to do exactly the same thing? Quite possibly. Quite possibly. And the way he's acted, I don't think has been any good to him as an individual. As we've said before, boys, if he'd have said all of this behind the scenes, he played against Celtic, he'd gone to the pre-season, if he'd have done all that and just been saying in the background to the management, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go, and then it all getting done in the background with Liverpool, we'd have still been devastated, obviously, but this could have all been done very professionally. And yeah, we'd have still been angry, and yeah, we'd have still been disappointed, but he'd have been gone, and it would have been done. And I think as a fan base, we'd have turned around and gone, yeah, I can see why he's gone. I understand. And I think in the heart of hearts, all of us as Newcastle United fans can understand why he wants to go and play in the Champions League, but potentially win the Champions League, potentially win the Premier League. We all get it. But now we all feel the way that we do about him because of the way he's conducted himself and the way that he has portrayed himself. And I don't think he's done himself any favours. I don't think Liverpool are as keen on him as what they once were. I really don't. That's not to say they won't come back in for him. I'm sure they probably will. And I think now Newcastle are going, do we want to keep him? Is this what we want? And certainly the players could well be feeling that as well. The players could be thinking, well, he can't even be asked training with us. We've all put the hard yards in. We all want to have a good season. We're all looking at the future of Newcastle United. He's not even bothered. So, and Eddie Howe, again, another damning statement. The last thing I'll say on this, Eddie Howe with his damning statements. I mean, his statements are brilliant. They're very frustrating because you're all trying to unpick. And I found it really interesting the other night. It wasn't last night's one. I think it was the night before when Eddie Howe had done his press conference. And Keith Downey, Craig Hope, and the Geordie Journos. I watched all videos, all fantastic content creators, by the way. If you don't watch them, make sure you do. All three of them all had a different opinion on what Eddie Howe had said. All three of them. And to me, that says a lot. And even last night, Eddie Howe, he I'd have him back tomorrow. Would he have him back tomorrow? As a manager, he'd have him back tomorrow, looking at his squad. But as an individual, would he have him back tomorrow? Will he have been happy with his conduct? I'm not so sure. And I'm wondering whether Eddie Howe was saying all these things to basically push the narrative that we want to keep him. You know, because Eddie Howe can't come out and go, yeah, I want him gone. He needs to leave. Because then Liverpool will go, 90 million? How's that? No.
This is the thing. This is exactly it, Chris, is that Eddie Howe, I think Eddie Howe's pissed off with him. I think Eddie Howe,
He is.
I think Eddie Howe wants him gone. Eddie Howe does not want anybody that doesn't want to play for Newcastle United. And it's absolutely crystal clear that he does not want to play for Newcastle United. So for me, I think his head, Eddie Howe's head, is away from Alexander Isak. It has to be. The season starts on Saturday. His head can't be in the game for a player that doesn't want to play for Newcastle United. His head needs to be in the 25-man squad that he has to work with for the rest of the season. It has to be. And this is where I think the tug of war is with Newcastle United at the moment. And this is why Eddie Howe is being very diplomatic in his interviews, because he has to be. I think Eddie Howe would be pretty much saying he wants to leave if it was up to him, but he can't, because I think Eddie Howe wants him gone. But I think the owners want him to stay. And I think that's where the issue is. And I think in the middle of that is the big fee of 150 million, is that he doesn't leave unless they get that. And I think that's the tug of war at the moment with Newcastle United. I think that's the biggest issue right now. Howe wants him gone. The owners want him to stay. Isak's in the middle, and his price tag above him is 150 million. Newcastle United can't have, to point out what you just said, can't have a situation where Eddie Howe is saying he wants him gone, the players are saying they want him gone, and everything else, because that does give the license for a club to come in and bid less money. I will say, if a PSG came in with a little bit less money, Newcastle would probably accept it. If Barcelona came in with a little bit less money, I think they'd possibly accept it. But the fact that he'd be moving to somewhere in England, Newcastle want to extract the maximum value for Alexander Isak, because they don't want to sell him to another English club. So if they have to, they want to make sure they're getting their proper value for it. And this guy, Stephen, with the free Isak, guys, can we put free Gerrard in the chat, please? Can we put free Suarez in the chat, please? Can we put free Coutinho in the chat, please? Because this guy's talking like we're holding him hostage. But, you know...
Good morning, Liverpool fans. And AC Milan fans as well in the chat.
I'm sure Liverpool fans were threatening Steven Gerrard when he was on the verge of moving into Chelsea. We're certainly not doing that. We're annoyed at Alexander Isak, but we ain't going Liverpool lengths to force a player to stay at their club. So let's not go there, Stephen. You know, it should be very much be reminded. And to be fair, there are some good Liverpool fans out there that are seeing this on a balanced level, that are going, you know what, I can understand it, because we had the same with Gerrard, we had the same with Suarez, we had the same with Coutinho. So it's all right, Liverpool fans banging the drum, free Isak, but you guys have got short memories. You know, I've been watching football a long time now, and I've seen the situations with other clubs, your club in particular, where you've had this same situation, and you've had it more than us, where your players wanted to go to a better and bigger club. So let's not do that right now. But the situation with Alexander Isak, for me, he needs to go. He absolutely needs to go. But the closer these days tick down, not just to the end of the window, but the season starting, means that I think it is less likely to happen. And being honest, that frustrates me, because I do not want this hanging over Newcastle United's head for another season. I'm done with it. Every Newcastle fan's done with it. I want it gone. I want him gone. As much as of a good player he is, and as much as the level may well drop without him in the team, I want him gone, because I want this situation cleared so we can move on with a fresh head and properly focus on in this season. Because I tell you what, if he does stay at Newcastle United, regardless if he plays well and if he scores goals, the emphasis won't be on Newcastle United and how well they're doing or the performances they're putting in. It's all going to be, is Isak going to stay? Where's his next club? And it's going to be Newcastle, caveated with Isak and Liverpool talk constantly all through the season. I don't want it. I don't want to hear it. Just remember, Newcastle fans, how pissed off we were with the Arsenal situation throughout the season last year and how annoyed we were with that. That's going to ramp up by 10%. It's absolutely, and I'm done with it. I don't want it. I'd rather him just go and be sold. But this is the issue, because I'm saying I want him gone, but I also want 150 million for him, because that's his value.
Yeah.
And I want us to be able to kick on. What I would like Newcastle United to do, in my opinion, is put the cat amongst the pigeons and just go out and sign an Isak replacement level striker. I know we're going to talk about Johan Wissa and all that stuff that's going to come up, but I would love them to just go out and get the guy that they want to be the guy to move forward this season, regardless of Isak's situation. I would, that should be Newcastle United's priority. Forget Isak, let's get our guy and let's move on with him. And then whatever happens with Isak in the background, happens with Isak in the background. That's what I'd want to see this week. And you know what? It was worrying signs with Gordon going down, and it just shows how quickly things can turn from a bad situation to a nightmare situation. Because if we lose Anthony Gordon and he's not available on Saturday for Aston Villa, we're in a right mess. I fully expect, lads, whether it's an Isak replacement or a Johan Wissa, we should have a new striker in our ranks, in our squad, going to Aston Villa by Saturday. It has to happen. It has to happen. We cannot afford for this situation to carry on and start affecting our season. Yes, it's a long season. Yes, it's 38 games, but your start of the season can dictate where your season goes. And we, for the worst summer we've had, need to start strong. Now, I made the point at the top of the show. Aston Villa haven't had a great preseason either. They haven't had a great summer of investment either. I think they've invested less than us in terms of players. So we have an opportunity to go there. They haven't got a Rashford or an Asensio at this moment in time. You know, their squad is just as thin as ours. There's an opportunity to go there and get something from that game to start the season positively. Got a tough start. So we cannot afford to mess around. If we've got a chance to go and get a player this week, we go and get that player and we think about what is currently available to us. And that's it. Whatever happens with Isak, happens with Isak. And it becomes second nature, second fiddle in terms of our thoughts on what's going on with Newcastle United. That is where I'm at right now. I don't think it will happen, but that's what I want Newcastle to do. Because you have to try and change the narrative here. It can't just be about Isak. In my mind, I'm already kind of like Friday for Eddie Howe's press conference going, do I really want to listen to 15 questions for 35 minutes of just Alexander Isak? I'm bored of it. We're all bored of it. We bring it up because it's a conversation that we have to have as a Newcastle United channel. But I'm just bored of this Isak situation. It's so boring. But
Just to add in, boys, and I've seen this from Stephen. Stephen stops with the free Isak now, but Stephen says, Isak wants to leave, let him go. You'll never walk alone. Now, let's be honest, boys, as we've just said, Newcastle are not going to come out and they're not going to make a statement and go, Alexander Isak can leave. We want Alexander Isak to leave. That's just not going to happen. As a Liverpool fan, I would be asking myself, and I've said this to various Liverpool fans, is there a frustration from Liverpool fans that they've, this is the number one target and they've put in 110 million bids? Because let's be honest, they must have known themselves 110 million is not going to get Alexander Isak. If I'm sitting there as a Liverpool fan and I'm hearing we want Alexander Isak, we're going to go and get Alexander Isak, why have they not come in with the bid for Alexander Isak? Because we all know that the price is 150. Even if it was competitive and they went, right, let's go 125, 130, 135. We've just not seen that. For me, that would be a frustration. But I had a question for you two boys very, very quickly. Before the 1st of September, what is, in your head, what is your price tag on Alexander Isak if he was to move to Liverpool?
150 is the price tag. Simple. So to want him to move to Liverpool, I I'll just throw in as part of my answer here, Chris, back to Scouse JFT 97, and he says that they congratulated us on winning the week. We congratulated you guys on winning the league well before you won the league as well. But this is there was all this talk about respect, and then 110 was thrown at us.
It's business.
Really respect
business.
Yeah. So
Pete, what about you?
Oh,
sorry, that's one, mate.
No, carry on.
Yeah, for me, at this moment in time, 150 is the value for Alexander Isak. But how we get to that 150 is where I've probably changed my mindset on it. So for me, I would be willing to accept 135, 140 with add-ons that take it to 150. We get 150 on the books, and he goes. That's the way I'm seeing it right now, because I'll be honest, boys, I know he's a great player, world-class striker, all the rest of it. His head's not in Newcastle United. You are not going to get the same Alexander Isak that we got last season. Yeah. There's even question marks and people now saying those last 7 games of the season, was he actually injured? Did his head just completely leave Newcastle United and he left the party effectively? Was he playing down his performances because he thought if we didn't get Champions League, it would strengthen his position to leave Newcastle United? That is a genuine question that's been asked around circles of Newcastle United. And you know what, lads? I would not be surprised. If you'd have said that to me, if you said that to me in May, I'd have said, you're talking rubbish, you're having a laugh. Alexander Isak would never do that. Now, with his actions, I'm not quite sure. I'm genuinely not quite sure that Alexander Isak would actually would not do that, for example. It's very clear how much he wants to leave Newcastle United. Has he tried to maybe sabotage the situation? Because let's be honest, lads, his performances were so noticeably different. And they used the groin injury as an example for this, and it could well be the case. But isn't it weird that now for me personally, I'm now questioning all of this. His level of behavior and his petulance this summer has made me question everything about his behavior recently, particularly in the back end of the season. I'm not sure what to believe now. I could be wrong, could be true. We're never going to know, but it certainly adds and bodes the question. The one thing is that Alexander Isak's played all his cards. He's played all his cards, and Newcastle has still said, but there's no difference. I said that on the show the other day. There's no difference. He puts in what is a transfer request going to do other than lose him money? He loses his right.
It's a lot of money he loses, though, Pete. Yeah, a lot of money.
So, and is he going to do that? Probably not. That's the only thing that a transfer request. That's the only thing that it does. It effectively uses his money. We know he wants to leave the club. He's already told us through his agents, through the people in the media, Fabrizio Romano, etc., etc. He's already made it really clear that he wants to leave, refusing to go to Celtic, refusing to go on the tour, training on his own. All of these things are very clear that he wants to leave the club. A transfer request would do absolutely nothing at this point apart from harm him. So I don't think he would do it. Him and his agent have played all their cards, thinking that this would put him in the mud to the point where he'd force himself a move. Maybe he thought this was the only way of getting out of Newcastle United. Maybe. Who knows? But I tell you what, I don't think they expected the ownership to double down on it and go, nah, you're not going anywhere. Yeah, and this is the thing. It goes back to my original point before we move on. I think Eddie Howe wants him gone because he wants to move on from him. I think the owners are doubling down to go, nah, you're staying. You can't throw those strops and expect to just leave the club. What's that going to look like to a Sandro Tonali or a Bruno Guimaraes or a Sven Botman that may want to leave in the year's time? Did they throw a strop and get what they want? Nah. We're going to stick to our guns. You're staying. 150 million gets you out the door, so we benefit from it. Otherwise, you're staying at Newcastle United. Tell the club that you're so desperate to go to get the money and put it in our bank account, 150 million, otherwise you're staying at the club. And so there may well be a level of truth to what Luke Edwards is saying, because it might be that the ownership are being really staunch on this and going, no, and they're setting a precedent, because what that will do, as much as I will be annoyed that he's still at the club after September the 1st, is that what that does do is that it tells everybody else in that squad, it tells everybody else that comes to Newcastle United. And I had this conversation with Pops the other day. People saying, "Oh, what sort of mindset does this show other potential players that come to Newcastle United?" Well, my answer was, I don't want players to come to Newcastle United and see us as a stepping stone. I don't want them to come and go, "Oh yeah, I'll have a good season or two, and then I can stomp my feet and get a move." No, I want Newcastle United players or players to come to us that want to come to us. I want Anthony Elanga to go, I want to come play for Newcastle United. I want to play for this club. I want this club to go in the direction that it looks like it's going. Malik Thiaw, apparently turning down big clubs. I want to go to Newcastle United when Max Allegri wants him to stay. That's the kind of player I want for Newcastle United, because you will get the absolute best of that version of player rather than someone that's just petulant and stroppy. Done with it. Get him out, get him gone. But I understand why the owners are doing what they're doing.
Do you think that Eddie Howe is almost, well, Eddie Howe probably is playing a game, and I think there's a lot of people playing games at the moment. But do you think Eddie Howe is almost leaving that door ajar for Alexander Isak by saying, you know, I really want him back in the team. You know, I really want him. I want him involved. If I could have got him involved yesterday, I would have got him involved yesterday. Do you almost feel like he's leaving the door ajar, knowing full well that the owners are saying he's not leaving, so that, because the reason I'm making this point is that if Eddie Howe made it abundantly clear that Alexander Isak wasn't part of his plans, say he came out and said he's not part of my plans, I'm not interested, that then firmly shuts the door, doesn't it? So then when the 1st of September comes, Alexander Isak's thinking, well, Newcastle don't want me here, I don't want to be here. Do you think Eddie Howe is using the owner stance as in, well, that's what they're doing, I'm not in control of it? Like, how often have we heard Eddie Howe say, I'm not privy to the conversation, it's not my call to make, blah blah blah? Do you think that that's almost a play on Eddie Howe's part, so that he can put his arm around Alexander Isak on the 1st of September and go, listen, you can continue to, you know, sit in the corner and stamp your feet, but ultimately you're not going anywhere because the transfer window's shut. Should we get you back on board? Should we integrate you back in? Let's, you know, get you playing football. Because as I said earlier, he cannot continue this following the 1st of September. He can't continue it. If he's a Newcastle United player, he can't do that, because then he can't not play any football for 5 months before the window opens again. He just can't do that as a professional. He can't. It'll ruin his career. Daz, go on. You were going to jump in, mate.
Yeah, no, Eddie Howe has played a blinder. Every time he sits in front of the media, he does. He has to second think everything he says, because he knows it's all going to be quoted up and spread far and wide. And he's got to watch everything and say it in a way. He's got to be mindful that his current squad is listening to everything as well. He's got, so he's doing really, really well in a very, very difficult situation, and he's got no help from anybody else. He's the one sitting in front down. No, there's no CEO sitting down. Forget Daniels. He's got no CEO. He's got no sporting director. Forget Paul Mitchell. He's left in June. And the owners aren't coming out and support with a statement either. It's all. And that's where the journalists are getting different information from different sources as well. So I don't know. Eddie Howe has to tread carefully. He can't go in 2-footed. Other managers might too. Other managers in the past might have gone in 2-footed on Isak. He's got to be mindful of his own reputation as well, and what and prospective players coming in, or how they're looking at this situation. So. I think that's my response to your question, Chris.
Just to add on that Eddie Howe situation. I mean, just to add on to the point about Darren Eales, that Darren Eales is gone. He's already gone, and it was really noticeable that the presentation for the Cellar Cup, for the trophy, which, to be fair, all the fans had already left for. It was Peter Silverstone that went to do the official sort of handing over of the trophy, which is Darren Eales' job. He was nowhere to be seen. He's gone. So we are operating without a CEO, without a sporting director. That is unforgivable for a top-level club that's playing in the Champions League to be doing something of that description, to be functioning without those two key positions. It's unforgivable. It's absolutely crazy. We've made a mistake here. The ownership have made a mistake to think that we can just carry on without these two key positions being filled. And again, we've put Eddie Howe into a position where we're having to expect him to create miracles. Now, just wanted to bring up this point because I thought it was really good. A friend of the channel, True Geordie, put this tweet out. While everyone's had a good laugh kicking Newcastle this week, Eddie Howe continues to conduct himself with absolute class. He's improved every player at the club, especially Isak. We are lucky to have him leading the club during our tricky period. The one thing I will say on that, because I think he's absolutely right in what he says, and at the bottom there, it says the board owe him big time. And that's linked into my point where I was talking about the board and the ownership. They absolutely do owe Eddie Howe. And for all of those people that have been bashing Eddie Howe over the last year, hopefully now, this summer, you realize how important Eddie Howe is to all of this and how important he is in making this work. Because I'll be honest with all of you, I'm worried that Eddie Howe walks next summer. I'm worried because Thomas Tuchel, and I've said it before in the previous show, and I'll say it again, he doesn't last beyond next summer unless he wins the World Cup, which is not likely, in my opinion. And I'm talking as an England fan here. The first person they're coming for is Eddie Howe. There's no doubt about it. And I'm genuinely worried that he goes, do I really want to go through this again? I've won him a trophy. I've got them multiple Champions Leagues. I'm out. However, so that's kind of where I'm at with all of that. I've just seen something. I'm not sure. Okay, it's all right. It's just related to the video. Regarding us making a formal inquiry for Samu Aghawa, but I think it's just part of the video that he's put out. It's not anything new, should we say? But that's my thoughts and feelings on Eddie Howe. We've got a couple of striker topics. Aghawa was one of them to run through as quickly as can. But I think we've got some super chats, lads.
We have. Let me just whiz through them. Morso has been a member for 43 months. Thank you very much, Morso. Morso says, Toon.
Shane Mawson.
Ahead. Oh, yeah, it is Shane Mawson, isn't it? Oh, Shane. I didn't recognise with the different handle. Good to have Shane in the chat. I think Shane loves our morning shows, doesn't he? Because he's based in Australia, so it means that he can watch live. So, yeah, good to see you, Shane. And I hope all is well, mate. And, yeah, hopefully a positive week ahead. This week hasn't been too bad. We've had a little bit of positivity, which has been nice. So, yeah, positive week prior to the season starting would be great. American Geordie, thank you very much for your super chat. And American Geordie says, do you guys like Samu or Kolo Muani more? Daz, I'll start with you because I think I know what you're going to say.
I like Kolo Muani as well. Just think he's more established and he'd want massive wages. Not to say that Samu wouldn't want massive wages because he'd be coming in on a big fee. We'll get more into that in a second. But for me, I think as we're sitting now and as we're standing and as we're sitting and standing and who we've been kind of linked with in informal inquiries, Samu is the one for me.
Pete?
I want both. I tweeted out on Friday. Yeah, I was thinking it was on Friday actually. I tweeted out when we were linked with both because we can run through both of these. I want both. You know, if I'm looking at a strike force, I'm looking at Champions League experience in Kolo Muani, playing at the highest level, playing at a top team, so knows how to play under pressure, and he's a goal scorer. But then you've got the youth there, the young gun coming through, Samu Aghawa. And what you've got two different type of players. Samu Aghawa is that target man. He holds up the board. He's big and strong. He puts himself about. He offers. He's almost like he offers exactly what Wilson used to give us, but he's got his youth, he's got his fitness, he's got his ability to score more goals. That's just the perfect forward. And then the Kolo Muani gives you a little bit of the link and the movement and the positioning in and behind runs like Isak will give you, not on the same level, but what you're getting is two different type of players. And Eddie Howe is going to be able to play two different types of ways based on the striker that he's got. And I think it really would work well. But if I was to choose one, I'd go for Aghawa. I think he fits the bill in terms of Newcastle United one. He's 21 years old. Okay, Spanish. So, I think he's got Nigerian descent, but he's Spanish, so he doesn't affect anything with AFCON. You've got potential for him to grow and develop and get better. You've got the potential there. People will talk about added value on his transfer. I don't care about that, but there's that element that Newcastle will care about, all of those things. But I just want to add, just while we're talking about it, before I come to you, Chris, on that, is that Kolo Muani, although it was talked about Sky Sports in Germany around interest in Kolo Muani, Lee Ryder was the first actually to come out with this and say that based on the reports in Germany about an approach, that there hadn't been an approach. Fabrizio Romano has also mentioned that Juventus are the only ones that are currently in for him. And I say currently because I do think with a small pool of players that we're looking for attacking wise, he would be and should be in that mix if I'm Newcastle United. But that's kind of where I would be at with that. But you got any preference on those, Chris?
Do you know what? I think I would go with Samu Agahawa, and the reason being is I think he'd be more hungry. And the reason I say that, I think Kolo Muani's more experienced, as you've mentioned. But you know, Kolo Muani's played for PSG, he's played for Juventus. Is he going to be as hungry as Samu Agahawa? I'm not sure. Obviously, both new to the Premier League if either were to join. But I don't know. I just feel like Samu Agahawa, would come in and want to burst onto the scene. Whereas I feel like Kolo Muani's already proved. You know, he's already in the French squad. He's already done the business. So I think for me, I'd probably go Samu Agahawa. I had a very quick question for you as well, Pete. Just off the back of that, you mentioned these Joe Linton headers. Obviously, I haven't seen them. Do you think Samu Agahawa would have scored one before?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
To be fair, I'd have thrown Johan Wissa back one of them. Like any striker coming on the end of some of the, because I have to be honest, that whether it was Anthony Elanga, Harvey Barnes put in a superb ball. Literally, like he couldn't have put that ball any better. And I think Joe Linton just kind of glances it just wide of the far post. Like there were good deliveries, there were good chances to score. Trippier put in, I think, a couple of really good deliveries. We just needed a good striker that's on the end of them, that has the know-how in those positions. And I think we'd have scored at least a couple of them, 5 or 6 in the first half. And they weren't half chances, mate. They were good, like really good goal-scoring chances. So yeah, I think Agahawa, I think Kolo Muani, Johan Wissa, I think any of them would have put at least one of them away.
Yeah, and Joe Linton in front of goal.
Well, yeah,
he's no look.
Totally.
Mixed bag.
Yeah. But yeah, and then he can score an absolute banger. It's just Joe Linton, isn't it? So we've got 4 more boys. So Andy HW5G, hope you're good, mate. I wonder if YouTube started adding extra letters and numbers on the end. Maybe not. Maybe I'm making that up. But thank you very much for the super chat anyway, Andy H. Positives: Gordon, Ramsdale, Miley, Park, Elanga, Ashby, Botman, and Bruno looks freaking brilliant. I think over the course of the pre-season, Bruno's looked absolutely fantastic, hasn't he? And that's great to see. It's great to see your captain in fine form. So that is a major plus. We're going to need big performances next season from Bruno Guimaraes, that's for sure. Hat-trick hero. Honestly, and thank you very much for the super chat, Hat-trick hero. Honestly, I noticed his body language change in the last 10 games. I think he's referring to Alexander Isak. Wasn't really celebrating other goals and looked downbeat every game. And do you know what? That kind of marries up with what we were saying earlier. The fact that it may be perhaps Alexander Isak's won the trophy. He's already made Newcastle aware he doesn't want to be there. He's down tools to a degree. And again, boys, this is all things that are factoring in, and people are, questioning whether he was injured, questioning his attitudes. And I tell you what, there's going to be a lot of questions of his attitudes, not just from Newcastle, but also from the likes of Liverpool and other clubs who may be interested in him. Because as I said earlier, are there going to be clubs going, do we really want to put all that much money out there for him? If he goes and scores 25, 30 goals for us, and then somebody else comes in for him, do we want that problem? It's all things to consider.
Yeah, you know how we have, what time is it? 10:30. You know how we have the dickhead policy. Well, step up, Alexander Isak. You're into that bracket now, and for your next club, that's something they should consider.
Yeah, totally agree. Big shout out and thank you to Harry Horsham, who's been a member for 42 months. Thank you very much, Harry. Don't forget, with these shout outs, Harry, you can always pop a little comment in there, so feel free to do that next time. And then finally, we've got the Ruffyhead Bernican. Thank you very much for the super chat, Ruffyhead. Much appreciated. And you're challenging me on a Sunday morning now to try and pronounce this. But Miko Atadze and Ramos from PSG for 80 million. Would you buy both? Miko Atadze was the one who had a really good Euros, wasn't he?
Yes, Georgian.
Prominence. Yeah, that's right.
Is he the one from Leon? I think he's at Leon.
Yes.
Yeah, to Leon, I think.
We love it. We love someone from Georgia on this show. But yeah, he did look really well at the Euros. Now I haven't really followed him after that. We did talk about him a bit at the time. And Ramos's quality as well, a different type of striker. We touched on him as well. I think the ideal situation there was sending Isak to PSG and getting Ramos in return as part of that deal. But I don't know. I haven't seen either linked in great detail to Newcastle, and I think with 10 days to go in the transfer window, or sorry, not 10, about 20, 21 or something days to go. I think we'll if we're going to go for anyone, it'll be Samu and Wissa, who we're going to talk about as well.
Yeah. Pete, you the same?
Yeah, I think the fact that it was reported that Ramos has kind of gone further down the pecking order was quite telling. Ramos is a very, very good striker, but he's a box striker. He does all of his work in the box. Like, he is a top level finisher, great with his head as well. And he's not like a 6'3", 6'4" type striker, but he is very, very effective in the box. But in terms of his work outside of the box, it isn't as good as the likes of Howe, as the likes of Kolo Muani, as the likes of Johan Wissa. Those players can affect the game outside of the box as well. And I think that's what Newcastle United are probably looking for. I think the other lad, Miku Tadzi, is, I think, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologise. Good player, really, really good. I think clubs are stepping back, especially top clubs, because they want to see more. They're very reluctant to sign players after a good Euros or a good World Cup, so they want to see a player like him do it. If he does it like for Leon next season, for example, I think he gets snapped up very quickly. Whether we should take the risk on him with someone like that as a Wilson backup, absolutely. But would you sign him instead of Johan Wissa? Maybe. In this situation, probably not. If you're Eddie Howe, you want to go with Premier League experience.
I think you're right, Pete, about Gonzalo Ramos. He's not that big, imposing striker, 6'3", 6'4", is he? He's probably more 5'11", 6 foot, which, similar height to yourself.
Thank you.
Move on quickly.
Chris, here's my book of good.
You can stand in on that, Pete.
Your name, in the words of Chris Jericho, you just made the list. You're my good list. Well done.
I couldn't resist. I had to get that in there. But boys, that is it for the super chats and the comments.
Really quickly. We'll run through, because I know everyone's got things to do in their Sunday mornings. After, of course, watching Loaded Mag NUFC. Johan Wissa, there has been some updates, so I'll run through them really quickly. It seems like things are moving, lads. Mike McGrath of the Telegraph has reported that there are talks opening now with Brentford and Bournemouth for Dango Aratara. If I'm pronouncing that right, I apologise if I'm not. Keith Downing says that Newcastle are ready to go. We are ready with the money. We're ready to finalise this deal and get it done. Interestingly, Wissa's representatives are in the UK. This was yesterday. Apparently, they are already here, and they're trying to, in London, thrash out a deal with Wissa going to Newcastle United. I think Wissa is ready to go. Everything is set, boys. They just need that replacement for Bournemouth. Or from Bournemouth, so Dango Atara to go to Brentford to unlock this. No, not Kolo Muani. It's this one. Fabrizio Romano says he didn't play in the game yesterday and was out of the squad. And again, his plan is to leave. And late last night, as I was doing some setup for this show this morning, Newcastle are set to make an improved offer for Johan Wissa. I think it's Simon Jones of the Mail Sport, who is relatively reliable on these types of things with regards to Johan Wissa and Newcastle United. He says it's looking like it's going to happen at this point. My question to you boys, is this getting done simply before Crystal Palace? Yes or no?
I'm going to add a bit more than yes or no, because I'm changing my stance a bit from this morning on. I think Isak needs to be sold. I think we should bring in Samu as a replacement. And I'm changing my stance on Wissa. I think we need to bring in Wissa now as well. Premier League proven, not the great age, going to the AFCON, but he can do a job for us. He wants to come to Newcastle. We've kind of chased him for the last number of weeks by keeping him this open. Yes, and to answer your question, Pete, yes, this gets done, and this gets done early next week. And thanks to Django for unlocking this. Django Unchanged.
He will be hopefully certainly unchained very shortly, Chris. But just, do you think it gets done before Villa? Yes or no, in your opinion? Expand it.
Yes. Yeah, no, it absolutely gets done. And do you know what, boys? We mentioned, didn't we, a few weeks ago that unfortunately the time for negotiating is over. I would value Johan Wissa with 1 year left on his contract, probably around the 30 million mark. The fact that we're paying 35, possibly 40 million, it's just get the deal done. Get the deal done. I actually think we'll look back and think that this Johan Wissa deal is good business, because if you're bringing in Johan Wissa as a replacement for Callum Wilson, and he's scoring 19 Premier League goals last season for the likes of Brentford, I think it's a really shrewd and a really smart deal. So yeah, for me, sooner the better. And I do think that we will sign him this week. Whether or not we see him involved at Villa, we might see him on the bench. Who knows? I don't think we'll start him by any means, but I think he could be involved. And yeah, I think it's a good signing. And then again, it's just another one we can tick off the list, and then we move on then and start seeing if we can try and bring in a replacement for Alexander Isak. But yeah, I think it's a good deal for the club, because he wants to move. Brentford have accepted that it's probably best for all if he moves on, and Newcastle want him. So again, it's a deal that just needs to get done now, in my opinion.
Another bit to add in before Pete gets it. Keith Downey said in his video that Liverpool were starting to take an interest in Wissa. Well, he only wants Newcastle. He only wants Newcastle.
I was just about to say the same. I got this up here just to prove that point from Sky Sports News. Keith Downey, Liverpool interested in Johan Wissa? Sorry, Liverpool fans, Wissa turned you down. He turned you down. Just remember that. He only wants Newcastle United. I think it has to get done, lads. It has to get done. I don't think he starts against Villa, but I think having someone like Johan Wissa coming off the bench is the positivity that we need to see in terms of moving forward this season. I think he's desperate to Newcastle. Go on, Chris.
Sorry, Pete. I was just going to add in, and boys, doesn't that, because it tells me a lot. Some Liverpool fans will say, "Oh, we just got Newcastle on a string. We're just dangling." To me, if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be looking at that and going, "How much do we want Alexander Isak?" The fact that that's even an option, because let's be honest, they're not signing Johan Wissa and Alexander Isak. They're just not. So to me, and if I was Alexander Isak, I'd be reading that in the paper and thinking, "Uh-oh," because why are they going in for Johan Wissa? Why are they even asking the question? Are Liverpool looking at it now? Jamie Carragher made the point, didn't he? He'd feel very uncomfortable with Liverpool spending £85 million on, they'll say it's less, but an overall package of £89 million on Hugo Ekitike, and then spending up to £150 million on Alexander Isak. Because Hugo Ekitike is going to be looking at it and going, hang on a minute, I was coming here, I was thinking I was going to be the guy. Alexander Isak comes in, Hugo Ekitike is second guy. And if you bring in a Johan Wissa, Hugo Ekitike stays as the guy, and Johan Wissa plays as the backup. It's great Johan Wissa said no to them. It's great that Johan Wissa wants to come to Newcastle United. But if I was Alexander Isak, and if I was Liverpool fans, I'd be looking at this and going, maybe it's not that much of a done deal that everyone thinks it is. Just wanted to add that in.
We shall wait and see. Isak, I know you're watching. You better be worrying. Right now. The last one for me is this man, Samu Agahawa. There was concrete links with this guy. And look, we've been wanting it all summer. We've talked about him plenty of times. You haven't watched the little clip that came out from Loaded on Friday, I believe. Go check that one out because we have talked about him previously. David Ornstein is the one to bring it to light. Newcastle are considering a move to sign Samu Agahawa from Porto. No formal approach or guarantee it happens, but is liked by Newcastle United. Now, Eduardo Burgos was the one that mentioned it, the first one really to mention it in media terms, in social media terms, and he's come back in with the fact that we are considering him and other profiles, but it would take around 80 million euros, he says, in order to make that deal happen. Craig Hope had already talked about it. He talked about it in his video, which is why Transfer Sector had touched on it. But the numbers coming back in Craig Hope's video was around 80 million to get this deal done. Boys, your opinions on Samu Agahawa, Daz? 80 million is a lot of money. 80 million euros is also a lot of money. Do you think Newcastle will go to those sorts of lengths to get Samu Agahawa through the door?
I'm going to bring it back to Friday first, because you know that meme where the office situation, it's happening. That was me on Friday, because I was thinking, finally we've started to take notice and go from the night before we called for Newcastle to take a look at this boy, and back in April, that's where I clipped it up. We were bringing a player each to the table, and I brought Samu to it, and we did an in-depth discussion on him then, but. Yeah, look, it hasn't moved on from that an awful lot more. It's still major doubts whether this one would happen, of course. But it's good that they've kind of been through intermediaries, have looked at them at least. Craig Hope said in his video last night that you had there that 80 million pounds. That I think it has a release cost of 100 million euro. And Chris, I'm going to refer back to what you said in our chat as well. Maybe there's some kind of a deal that could be had there about how much we pay up front and how they make up that figure. And even if they could wiggle it down a bit. Of course, I know Villa are also have an eye on them as well. But surely we can gazump Villa, and we have Champions League football as well. And he'd be coming in as the Newcastle number 9. For sure, if we were to get him, that would probably unlock an Isak sale as well. So Liverpool fans, keep your eye on that one as well, and other teams in Europe, keep your eye on that one as well, or in Saudi, because Isak could be off somewhere if that one happens. But no, I would. When we did talk about him back in April, at that time I was pitching him as someone to play alongside Isak. But in this situation, he'd be coming in as our number 1 striker with Wissa as our second man. Let's say. It'd be a big step up for him. He's strong, he's powerful, he's totally different type of player than Isak. And as you pointed out, and that's what I was saying in April as well, that he is like a young Callum Wilson in a way, but even a bigger version of him. Probably has a lot to learn as well, and I think Eddie could he could, like he did with Isak, he could mold him into something more than he even is today. So I would absolutely love if we got Samu to Newcastle, and it would just give us a lift as well. Whether that I can't see it happening before the Villa game, but maybe in that week between the last few 10 days of the transfer window, let's say.
Great stuff on the 300 likes, people. Keep hitting those likes if you still haven't yet. But Chris, Samu Agahawa, do you think that Newcastle United will go in for him in the last 20 days of the window? It seems pretty clear that we're interested in him through David Ornstein, who doesn't normally get anything like that wrong. But in your opinion, is Samu Agahawa a guy that Newcastle will go for as their mainline striker?
Quite possibly. I was shaking my head, Pete, when I saw the article in terms of the price. I don't think it's going to cost anywhere near 80 million to get Samu Agahawa. As someone put in the chat earlier, I think he was signed, wasn't he, for 15 million by Porto. and it's right that there is a very high sell-on clause, which Atletico Madrid have obviously, made sure was inserted. But I think there is a deal to be done there. Newcastle obviously have worked their way down the list. Maybe at the start of the summer, Samu Howe wasn't very high up on that list. But I do think it's important that we try and bring in a replacement for Alexander Isak. And it almost feels, boys, and I don't know if you feel the same way, it almost feels to me like this is potentially last roll of the dice. And maybe it's one that we've got to get right. And when I say that, it sounds quite dramatic. But what I mean is Samu Howe potentially the last big striker that we potentially go for this window, if we do indeed go for him. And then I would say if he isn't attainable, or if the figures don't work or whatnot, then we either bring in a loan to supplement Johan Wissa, or we keep Alexander Isak and go with Johan Wissa and Alexander Isak, or we potentially get another player from the, as Craig Hope calls it, the Johan Wissa list. The Callum Wilson list. But the only danger of doing that is you then end up with two strikers who are basically backup strikers, but you still need your main threat, your main guy up front. And that's the problem. If you're trying to sign a player so late in the window, you're going to pay a premium price for a striker, because strikers come at premium prices, and you're going to be offering them huge wages. And then you don't want then 12 months down the line to have two strikers and you need to get rid of one of them. I don't know. And do you know what, boys? I'm thinking out loud here. It could even be that, we do go for two players in the Callum Wilson mould, knowing that we do then need the main striker, and maybe we wait till January, maybe we wait till the summer, and Alexander Isak's already out the door. So you've got the two bodies in, but there's no reason to suggest that we don't. There's no reason to suggest that we don't start the season with a Johan Wissa, another Callum Wilson type. I'm going to say Strand Larsen. So if we start with Johan Wissa, Strand Larsen, and Willa Sula, and then in January or next summer, we let Willa Sula go on loan, and then we bring in the main guy. Maybe when there's more market opportunities, maybe when there's more time. I don't know. We spoke, didn't we, last time about making it work? But what we don't want to do is go and spend 60, 70, 80 million on a player who's like 10th choice. And that's why, to me, I feel like Samu Howe could potentially be the last one. As in, I think, if we can't get him over the line, or for whatever reason, we just go, right, need to scrap this. We need to go with the plan B, possibly bring in a Dominic Calvert-Lewin who sits behind Johan Wissa. I don't know. It's not ideal, but we save our money and we go again in January, or we go again in the summer when maybe someone else is available, or when maybe, we've properly scouted the market and somebody comes to light and we go, do you know what? Why don't we try and go and get that player? I don't know, but that's how I'm feeling about it. I hope we do sign him because he looks exciting. And I'd be made up for Daz, because Daz has been speaking about him for ages. So it would be nice, that he was scouted nice and early, and he comes to join Newcastle United. And certainly from the things I've seen and the clips I've seen, he looks a prospect. And I'm also interested in the fact that Chelsea were in for him. Chelsea was so close to getting him. And let's be honest, boys, and not many people will disagree with this, when it comes to transfer dealings, when it comes to being in the transfer market, there's not many people better than Chelsea. Chelsea know what they're doing. And the fact you're going in for the striker that Chelsea were so keen on, and Chelsea were trying to get over the line, I don't think it would be such a bad thing, because they know that there was a bargain to be had. Whether or not he can be the player we need him to be, I don't know. But I hope we go for him, and I hope we get him. I also, by the way, I think it'll be around the 50, 60 million mark. That's what I think it'll be, with potential add-ons.
Just before I give my very quick opinions on Samu Howe, there has been an update from Keith Downey with regards to Malik Thiaw. He has reported that Malik Thiaw will fly to Newcastle tonight to complete his move from AC Milan. Obviously, talked about the fee again. He's got his age right. Great age. 24 years old. We'll have his medical on Monday before signing. Beaten off interest from Bayern Munich and Juventus for his signature. So there's the clubs there that talked about turning down big clubs to sign for Newcastle United. Bayern Munich and Juventus both in for him, but he chose Newcastle United. There you go. That's the type of player we want to sign for Newcastle United, that is invested in the project, wants to come and play for us. Those clubs are playing Champions League football too. There we go. Player that desperately wants to come and play for us. That's the kind of player we want to see play for Newcastle United. So medical tonight, signing tomorrow, great age, 24 years old. There we go. Samu Agahara, for me, that's Johan Wissa will come to Newcastle United regardless. That's besides the point. I would be going in for Samu Agahara, absolutely. He's the type of striker that we need. I'm going to say something controversial in a second as well, aside from that. But I do think Samu Agahara is the guy. What I wanted to bring up is because the week previous, when we were all into Sesko, and there was links with Man United and Watkins, Aston Villa were linked really, really significantly with Samu Agahara. And it's interesting because I did catch this. It's the right one. It says that Porto want 55 million for Samu Agahara when Aston Villa inquired about him. That was a week and a half ago. And that was the fee that, speaking to Billy, that they had been quoted at that time. For me, that's a game changer. If it is actually 55 million that they want, I think Newcastle United need to pay it, and they need to pay it right now to get him through the door. 80 million, I think, is being bandied about because, of course, they're going to try and price him up. They're going to try and maximize as much as possible. He's got an 85 million pound release clause. Of course, they're going to want to try and get as close to that as possible. But in reality, I think that valuation there, if that holds true, and it's actually the people that wrote that, Villa representatives for the Athletic, so they are credible journalists that are writing that piece on Samu Agahara, actually mentioned that it was around 55 million that they were looking for. So maybe there's somewhere to work in the middle. I'd be paying 60, potentially 65 million for him because I think the investment's worth it. And for me, I just think we need to move on from Isak. So absolutely, in regards to that. My controversial thought was, you talked about, Chris, a Johan Wissa, Dominic Calvert-Lewin pairing. I definitely wouldn't be doing that. However, I would be all for Samu Agahara, Johan Wissa, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin on a free. I would absolutely be looking at signing all three to take us forward and sell Alexander Isak. And the reason being is that we know Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's not the best. He's not your first choice, maybe not even your second choice. But I would absolutely have him as a third choice instead of Willa. Willa, I think it's very clear this pre-season needs to go on loan and play football elsewhere. For as much as we like the lad and his personality, he's not ready to play football at this level, in my opinion. And I think he needs to go on loan. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a third option can fill a void of backup when Johan Wissa goes to the African Cup of Nations. So you've still got strength and depth in that position, and you're not having to go back to a mainline striker and and Anthony Gordon being the Johan Wissa for 4 weeks. I'd rather have a striker that can come in and do a job, but only as a third choice. I wouldn't be against that at all. But providing we get a Samu Agahara and a Johan Wissa as first and second choice, I wouldn't be against that. People might not agree, but I would consider that as a third choice at the end of the window, just to get him in if he's not got a club. That's just my controversial opinion on that, boys. Boys, should we wrap?
Let's wrap, boys. That is it. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. We will be back as well as some news drops and during the week. So keep an eye. Make sure you have that notification button on. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody. See you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I get those goosebumps, baby. get those goosebumps every time I'm around you. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time